Give me a second to figure out where this camera is real quick here. Should have been here. I don't think anything's using it. Doesn't look like it was already on. Not quite sure why it's off. I don't remember touching anything, turning it off. There we go. We got it figured out. Let's go back to the classroom. Not sure why it got dropped right there. Shouldn't have. For you guys joining the channel, we're on part 2. This is the second hour of a 14-hour crash course into Amazon Web Services Certified Cloud Practitioner certification course. This is an individual from Free Code Camp. We have already purchased the book from, not directly from Amazon, but we used Amazon to get it because we are planning on taking the test for this before May or in May. Okay. So, without further ado, I'm not going to recap what was covered on Tuesday. We will be doing an hour on Tuesdays and an hour on Thursdays. So, let's get started. So I sound, let me see. I did turn the mic down last time because it felt like it was, there we go, I've turned it back up. It just felt like maybe it was blaring. All right. So here we go. Well, let me see. Let me open up chat over here though. Just because. It's a me, Mario. And I want to go into this one. I want to pop out chat somewhere. Yes, no, maybe. Get a refresh with the full video. No. Okay. Yeah, that's the one there. I understand why they give you these docs over here if it's not it's not going to open up the chat. So just haven't opened it up wide enough. No, that's not it at all. All right, well, I'll pop chat out somewhere. Don't worry. Let's go ahead and get started.
Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and we are looking at the evolution of computing. Your cloud service provider has all of these offerings, and the idea is that you need to choose the one that meets your use case. A lot of times, this all has to come around the utilization of space. That's what we're trying to illustrate here in this section here, and the trade-offs of why you might want to use some of these offerings, okay? For dedicated, we're talking about a physical server wholly utilized by a single customer. That's considered single tenant. And for Google Cloud, we're talking about single node clusters and bare metal machines where you have control of the virtualization, so you can install any kind of hypervisor or virtualization you want in the system. The trade-off here, though, is that you have to guess up front what your capacity is going to be, and you're never going to 100% utilize that machine because it's going to have to be a bit under in case the utilization goes up. That's you choosing the CPUs and the memories. You're going to end up overpaying because you'll have underutilized server. It's not going to be easy to vertically scale. It's not like you can just say resize it because the machine you have is what you have, right? You can't add more. I mean, I suppose they can insert more memory for you, but that's a manual migration, so it's very difficult. And replacing the server is also very difficult, okay? So you're limited by the host operating system. It's not virtualized, so whatever is on there is on there. And that's what your apps are going to have access to. If you decide to run more than one app, which is not a good practice for these kind of machines, you're going to end up with resource sharing, where one machine might utilize more than the others. Technically, with a dedicated machine, you have a guarantee of security, privacy, and full utility of the underlying resources. I put an asterisk there because, yes, it's more secure, but it's up to you to make sure that it's more secure. So that's up to your skills of security, right? Whereas if you had a virtual machine or anything above that, there's more responsibility on the cloud service provider to just provide a secure machine, and they can do a better job than you. So why would you use a dedicated machine? Well, maybe you're doing high performance computing where you need these machines like very close together, and you have to choose what kind of virtualization you need to have, okay? So then we're looking at virtual machines. The idea here is you can run a machine within a machine. The way that works is we have a hypervisor. This is a software layer that lets you run the virtual machines. And the idea here is now it's multi-tenant. You can share the cost with multiple customers. You're paying for a fraction of the server. You'll still end up overpaying for the underutilized virtual machine, because a virtual machine is just like, you have to still say how many vCPUs, how much memory, and your app is, you don't want an app that uses 100%, right? You want to use exactly the amount you need, but you can see here, there's still going to be some underutilization. You are limited by the guest operating system, but now it's virtualized, so at least it's very easy to possibly migrate away. If you choose to run more than one app on a virtual machine, it can still run into resource sharing conflicts. It's easier to export or import images for migration. It's easier to vertically or horizontally scale, okay? And virtual machines are the most common and popular offering for compute because people are just very comfortable with those. Then you have containers, and the idea is you have a virtual machine running these things called containers. The way they do that is similar to a hypervisor, but instead you have, like here is a Docker daemon, so it's just a container software layer, okay, to run those containers. There's different kinds. Docker is the most popular. And the great thing is you can maximize the capacity, because you can easily add new containers, resize those containers to use up the rest of the space. It's a lot more flexible, okay? Your containers will share the same underlying OS, but they are more efficient than multiple VMs. Multiple apps can run side by side without being limited by the same OS requirements and not cause conflicts during resource sharing. So containers are really good, but the trade-off is there are a lot more work to maintain. Then you have functions. Functions go an even step further. And the idea is that you, the containers where we talked about, that's a lot of work to maintain. Now the cloud service provider is taking care of those containers generally. Sometimes not. It depends if it's serverless or not. But the idea is that you don't even think about, and this is called serverless compute, but you don't even think about the OS or anything. You just know that what your runtime is. You run Ruby or Python or Node, and you just upload your code, and you just say, I want this to be able to run for this long and use this amount of memory, okay? You're only responsible for your code and data, nothing else. It's very cost effective. You only pay for the time the code is running, and VMs only run when there is code to be executed. But because of that, there is this concept of cold starts, and this is where the virtual machine has to spin up. And so sometimes requests can be a bit slow. So there's a bit of trade-off there, but functions or serverless compute is generally one of the best offerings as of today. But most people are still getting kind of comfortable with that paradigm, okay? Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and we are taking a look at the types of cloud computing. And the best way to represent this is a stacked pyramid, and we'll start our way at the top with SaaS, also known as software as a service. So this is a product that is run and managed by the cloud service provider. You don't have to worry about how the service is maintained. It just works and remains available. So examples of this, and actually the first company to coin this was actually Salesforce. Then there's things like Gmail, Office 365, so think Microsoft Word, Excel, things like that, and they run the cloud, okay? And SaaS is generally designed for customers in mind. Then came along platform as a service, also known as PaaS. And these focus on the deployment and management of your apps, so you don't worry about provisioning, configuring, or understanding the hardware or operating system. And so here we'd have things like Elastic Beanstalk, Heroku, which is very popular among developers that just want to launch their code, or Google App Engine. And that is the old logo, but that's the logo I like to use because I think it looks cool. And so these are intended for developers. The idea is that you just deploy your code and the platform does the rest. Then there is infrastructure as a service. There's no way to say that, like it's easy to say SaaS or PaaS, but there's no easy way to say IaaS. So this is the basic building blocks for cloud IT. It provides access to networking features, computers, and data storage space. And the idea here is you don't worry about the IT staff, data centers, and hardware. And so that would be like Microsoft Azure, AWS, Oracle Cloud, things like that. And these are for administrators, okay? So there you go.
He's moving through it, ain't he? He's moving through it.
Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and we are taking a look at cloud computing deployment models, starting with public cloud. And the idea here is that everything, when I say everything, I'm talking about the workloads, the projects, the code, is built on the cloud service provider. So here is a diagram where we have a EC2 instance, a virtual machine running our application, and then we have our database in RDS, and we have the internet coming into our AWS account, and so everything is contained, all of our infrastructure is within AWS, all right? And so this is known as being cloud native or cloud first, and I put an asterisk beside cloud native because that was a term that was used prior to cloud service providers to refer to containers or open source models being deployed and being mobile other places. So just understand that it has two meanings, but in the context of this, cloud native just being like native to the cloud, like using cloud to begin with, okay? Then we have private cloud, so everything built on a company's data center, and being built on a data center is known as being on-premise because that is where the data center resides, near where you work. And so here you could be using cloud, but you'd be using OpenStack, which would be a private cloud. So here we have our on-premise data center, and the internet's coming into our data center, and we're running on OpenStack where we can launch virtual machines and a database, okay? Then there's the concept of a hybrid cloud, so using both on-premise and a cloud service provider together. And so the idea here is we have our on-premise data center, and then we have an established connection. Maybe it's a VPN connection, maybe it is a direct connection, but the idea is that we're bridging that connection and utilizing both our private and our public stuff to create a cloud workload. Then there is a fourth one called cross-cloud. Sometimes it's known as multi-cloud, and sometimes it's erroneously referred to as hybrid cloud, but it generally is not hybrid cloud, okay? And the idea here is when you're using multiple cloud providers. And so one example here could be using services like Azure Arc. So Azure Arc allows you to extend your control plane so that you can deploy containers for Kubernetes in Azure, within Amazon EKS, within GCP Kubernetes Engine. But being cross-cloud doesn't necessarily mean that you're running using a service that works across the cloud and manages it. It could just mean using multiple providers at the same time. Another service that is similar to Azure Arc, but is for Google Cloud Platform, is also known as Anthos. AWS has traditionally not been cross-cloud friendly, and so we haven't seen any kind of developments there where we see these other services that are, or cloud service providers behind AWS trying to promote it to grab more of the market share, okay? So let's talk about the different deployment models and what kind of companies or organizations are still utilizing for these particular categories. So for cloud, again, this is where we're fully utilizing cloud computing. Hybrid is a combination of public cloud and on-prem or private cloud. And then on-prem is deploying resources on-premise using virtualization, resource management tools, sometimes called private cloud, or it could be utilizing something like OpenStack. So for companies that are starting out today or are small enough to make the leap from a virtual private server to a cloud service provider, this is where we're looking at cloud. So we're looking at startups, SaaS offerings, new projects and companies. So maybe this would be like Basecamp, Dropbox, Squarespace. Then for hybrid, these are organizations that started with their own data center but can't fully move to cloud due to the effort or migration or security compliance. So we're talking about banks, fintech, investment management, large professional service providers, legacy on-prem, so maybe CIBC, which is a bank, Deloitte, the CCP or CPP investment board. And then for on-premise, these are organizations that cannot run on cloud due to strict regulatory compliance or the sheer size of the organization, or they just have like an outdated idea of what cloud is. So they just have a lot of difficulties in terms of politics adopting cloud. So this would be public sector like government, super sensitive data like hospitals, large enterprise with heavy regulation, insurance companies. So again, hospitals, maybe AIG, the government of Canada. And so I shouldn't say that they aren't using cloud, but because AWS and all the cloud service providers have public sector offerings. So, I'm just trying to stage it as an example of things that could be still using on-premise. So, I know the government of Canada definitely uses cloud in a lot of ways. Same with AIG and hospitals, but generally these are the last holdouts of on-prem because there really isn't a good reason to be fully on-premise anymore. But again, there are some things that are still doing that, okay?
Create an account. I've already
Hey, this
created
is Andrew
one.
Brown from Exam Pro, and we are at the start of our journey creating ourselves an AWS account. So what you need to do is go to aws.amazon.com. If you don't have a lot of confidence how to get there, you just type in AWS into Google and then click here on the link where it says awsamazon.com. It'll take you to the same place. Now notice we have a big orange button in the top right corner. So this says sign into the AWS console. If it's the first time you've ever been to this website, so if I go to aws.amazon.com incognito, it will have the create an AWS account button. I don't know why they don't keep this consistent across the board, but I wish they did. But if you are on the screen, you can click here or there. But if you do see something that doesn't say, create an account or etc., you can just sign in. Okay, and then down below you can hit create a new AWS account. So that's the way you're going to get in there. And so you're going to put an email, a password, and create an AWS account name. I've created this so many times and it's so hard to set up new emails. I'm not going to do this again. It's not complicated, but one thing I need to tell you is that you do need to have a credit card. You cannot create an account without a credit card. And for those who are in places where maybe you don't have a traditional credit card, maybe you can get a prepaid one. So up here in Canada, we have a company called Koho. And so Koho is a Visa debit card. And so it's basically a virtual prepaid credit card. And so these do work on the platform as well. So if you have a traditional credit card or possibly could find one of these, you still have to load up with money, but it does give you a bit more flexibility to create that account. So what I want you to do is go through that process yourself. It's not complicated, and I'll see you on the other end, okay?
I am user. I might not have that though.
So once you finish creating your account, you should be within the AWS Management Console. And this is the page you're always going to see when you log in. It's always going to show the most recent services here. And you'll notice in the top right corner that I have my account called Exam Pro. If you're wondering how do you change that name, what you do is to go to My Accounts here. And once there, you'll have your account settings up here. And if you go to Edit, you can change that name here, okay? So sometimes when you create your account, you don't like the account name that you gave it, and so that's your opportunity to fix it. But once we're in our account, what I want you to do is immediately log out because I want you to get familiar with the way you log into AWS because it is a bit different than other providers. And so I don't want you to get hung up later on with your account. So I've logged out. I'm going to go ahead and log back in. So you can click the orange button, or what I like to do is drop down My Account and go to AWS Management Console. It's a lot more clear. And you'll notice we're going to have two options, root user and IAM user. So this is what I'm talking about for the confusion. So when you log into your root user account, you are always using an email. And when you're logging as an IAM user, you're actually going to be entering the account ID or account alias. But what we'll do is go to the root user, and this is the email you use to sign up with the account. So for me, I called this one Andrew plus sandbox at exampro.co. I'm going to go to next. Sometimes you get this character box. It's very annoying, but it happens time to time. And so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and type that in. Okay. And hopefully it likes it. And then I'm just going to enter in my password. All right. And I'll be back into my account. And so notice it takes me back to the AWS Management Console. So the root account is not something we want to be generally using, except for very particular use cases. And we do cover that in the course. But what I want you to do is go set yourself up with a proper account. And so what we'll do is go to the top here and type in IAM. and this stands for Identity and Access Management. And we'll click on IAM here. And on the left-hand side, we're going to see a bunch of options here. And so notice right away we get to the IAM dashboard where it's going to start to make some recommendations for us. The first one is always to add MFA, multi-factor authentication. Another thing you can do is set an account alias. So you can see that I've set one here prior. So if I just go ahead and remove it, the way we'd have to log in is via the account alias, which is the same as the account ID. And so I don't really like that. So I'm going to just rename it to Deep Space 9. And these are unique, so you have to pick something that is unique to you. So it could be your company name or things like that. It's going to make it a lot easier to log in when we create our additional user here. So we'll come back to MFA at some point here. But what I want you to do is go over to users and go ahead and make yourself a new user. And so I'm going to call this one Andrew Brown. And I'm going to enable.
All right, let's pause right there. So we're going to do an alias, I'm thinking. Yeah, we'll keep it like that. Keep it simple. Okay, and then he said add a user, right? Let's go to users, create user.
Pragmatic access. I'm going to enable AWS
console access. Now this option for access key isn't here. Access key, secret access key.
management console. So this one's going to allow me to use the APIs to pragmatically work with AWS. And this one here is going to allow me to just log into the console, which is pretty fair here. So now that I have this, we can auto-generate it or give it a custom password. I'm just going to auto-generate it for the time being. And here it says you must create a new password at the next sign-in, which sounds fair to me. And we can go ahead and create ourselves a new group. So it's pretty common to create a group called admin. And notice here, this is where we're going to have a bunch of different policies. So the first one here, which is admin and access, provides full access to AWS services and resources. And this pretty much gives you nearly almost the same capabilities as the AWS root user account. And so that's going to be okay because we are an admin in our account. So I'll checkbox that on. But I just want to show you here, if you drop down filter policies and you went to AWS manage job functions, these are a bunch of pre-made AWS policies that you could apply to different users. So what's really popular after the administrator access is to usually give the power user access. And so this one allows a user to do basically anything they want with the exception of management of users and groups. So, it could be that that's something that you'd want to do for some of your users. I just don't want to have any trouble, so I'm going to give us admin access here. And we're going to go ahead and create this group. And so here is the group that we are creating. We're going to go next.
That moves very, very fast. So let's back that up just real quick and see all the ones that he gives access to.
So you can via the account, rename it to Deep CU, create our additional, and go ahead and make yourself a new user. Pragmatic APIs to pragmatically work with AWS. Here, time being, and here it says create ourselves a new group. So it's pretty common to create a group called admin. And notice here, this is where we're going to have a bunch of different policies. So the first one here, which is admin and access, provides full access to AWS services and resources. And this pretty much gives you nearly almost the same capabilities as the AWS root user account. And so that's going to be okay because we are an admin in our account. So I'll checkbox that on. But I just want to show you here, if you drop down filter policies and you went to AWS manage job functions, these are a bunch of pre-made AWS policies that you could apply to different users. So what's really popular after the administrator access is to usually give the power user access. And so this one allows a user to do basically anything they want with the exception of management of users and groups. So, it could be that that's something that you'd want to do for some of your users. I just don't want to have any trouble, so I'm going to give us admin access here. And we're going to go ahead and create this group. And so here is the group that we are creating. We're going to go next. We can apply our tags if we want. I'm not going to bother. We're going to hit next review and then hit create user. All right, and so now what it's doing is it's showing us the access ID and the access key secret that we can use to programmatically access AWS. And then there's a password here. So I'm going to go ahead and show it. And what I'm going to do is just copy this into a clipboard anywhere. And so I'm just copying that off screen here because I'm going to need it to log in. And I'm just going to remember my username as well. All right, and so what we'll do is go ahead and hit close. So what I'll do is go back to my dashboard here. And remember, I set my account alias as DeepSpace9, but we could also use the account ID to log in. I'm just going to grab my account ID off screen here. And what I want to do now is go ahead and log out and now log into this IAM user. And this is the one that you should always be using within your AWS account. You shouldn't be using your root user account. So what I'll do is go over to IAM user here. And notice now that it says account ID, so 12 digits, or the account alias. So here I can enter in these numbers here, or I can enter in my alias, which is DeepSpace9. And again, you'll have to come up with your own creative one there for yourself. And we'll go ahead and hit next. And so notice what it's going to do is now ask me what my IAM username is. So I define mine as Andrew Brown. And then we had an auto-generated password there so that we had saw. And so I'm going to place that in there. We'll go ahead and hit sign in. And so now right away, it's going to ask me to reset the password. So I'm going to put the old password in there. And so now I need a new password. I strongly recommend
We're logged in
that you
as
generate
our user we created.
your passwords to be very strong. I like to go to password generator and I'll drop this down and I'll do something really long like 48 characters. And if you don't like weird characters, you can take those out there. Sometimes it loads here, so you got to try it twice. And I'm going to go down to, 48. There we go. And so that's pretty darn long. So I'm going to copy that off screen here so I do not forget. And you probably would want to put this in a password manager, something like Dashlane or some sort of thing like that. And we'll go ahead and we will paste that in and we'll see, whoops, I don't want Google to save it. And we'll see if it takes it. And so there we go. So what I'll do is now log out and I'll make sure my new password works because you really don't want to have problems later. So we'll type in DeepSpace9, Andrew Brown. Again, this is going to be based on what you have set. And we'll go ahead and log in. And there I am. And so now notice that it doesn't say Exam Pro or whatever. It says Andrew Brown at DeepSpace9. So it's using the account alias and showing the name. And that's how I'm going to know whether I'm the root account user or whether I'm logged in as an IAM user. All right. So there we go. Okay, so now that we have the proper user account to log in, I just want to point out about regions. So in the top right corner, you'll notice it says North Virginia here. It possibly will say something completely.
You pause that up there, guys. Be right back. Right back. All right, we're back.
else for you, But what you'll do is you'll click and drop that down and you'll see a big list of regions. And so sometimes when I log in AWS, it likes to default me to US East, Ohio, but I honestly like to launch all my stuff in US East, North Virginia. Even though I'm in Canada, I probably should be using the Canada Central region down here. But the default region is going to be based on your locality, okay? So just
Mm-hmm.
understand that it might be different. I strongly recommend for all of our follow-alongs you run in US East 1 because US East 1 is the original region, and it also has the most access to AWS services, and some AWS services such as like billing and costs and things like that are only going to show up in US East North Virginia. So just to make our lives a lot easier, we're going to set it there. But I want you to understand that some services are global services, meaning that it doesn't matter what region you're in, it's going to default to global. And one example could be CloudFront. So if I jump over to CloudFront here for a moment, and we do seem to have some CloudFront distributions here from a prior follow along. But notice up here that it now says global. So CloudFront does not require a region selection. Let's make our way over to S3. All right. And this one's also global. So again, this one does not require a region selection. But if you go over to something like EC2, okay, this has a region dependency. So just be really careful about that because a lot of times you'll be doing a follow along and you'll be like, why aren't these resources here or whatever? And it's because this got switched on you and it can happen at any time. So just be cautious or aware of that, okay? So one of the major advantages of using AWS or any cloud service provider is that it utilizes metered billing. So that is different from a fixed cost where you'd say, okay, I want a server for X amount of dollars every month. But the way AWS works is that it's going to bill you on the hour, on the second, based on a bunch of factors. And so you're going to be able to get services at a lower cost. However, if you choose an expensive service and you forget about it, or if there's misconfiguration where you thought you were launching something that was cost effective but turned out to be very expensive, you could end up with a very large bill very, very quickly. And so that is a major concern for a lot of people utilizing cloud, but there's a lot of great toolings built into AWS to allow you to catch yourself if you happen to make that mistake. And before we go ahead and learn how to do that, I want to show you some place where you could end up having excessive spend without knowing it. So one example, and this has actually happened to me when I first started using AWS, before I even knew about all the billing tools, is I wanted to launch a Redis instance. And so you just have to watch, you don't have to do this, but Elasticache is a service that allows you to launch either a Memcache or Redis database. And I just wanted to store a single value. And so I went here and I scrolled down, it looked all good and I hit create, but I wasn't paying attention because apparently AWS likes to default the node type here to the cache r6g.large. All right. And you know, you might think that AWS has your best interest in play, and most services are pretty good. They make sure that they're either free or very low spend, but some of these, and Elasticache is an older service where they just have these weird defaults. So, you know, if we were to go look up this, the RG6 large, all right, and look at its spend, all right, and we would go over here. Whoops, I think I went to the China one. But if we were to go over here and look for that instance, I'm just trying to find it here for cost. This one down below, this doesn't say pricing. Does it say our pricing here? Here it is. So this one cost about 2 cents per hour. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if we go here and we do the math, we say 730. 730 is the amount of hours in a month. That is $150. Okay, so if you don't know about that and forget about that, that's going to be $150. And I'm going to tell you that it used to be a lot higher. I'm pretty sure they used to have it defaulted to something like this or that, because I remember I did this and I had a bill that came in that was like 3,000 USD dollars. And I'm in Canada, so like 3,000 USD dollars is like $1 million up here. And so I remember it was a big concern and I freaked out, but that was okay because all I had to do was go to support. And what I had done is I went to the support center. and I had opened a support case, and I just said, hey, I had this really big bill. So you go here, right? And you look for billing, and you look for something like charge inquiry or misspend, and you say, um, like help, my bill's too high. And you just say, like, you explain the problem saying, hey, I was using Elastic Cache and it was set to a large default and I wasn't aware about it. Can you please give me back the money? And the great thing is that AWS is going to give you a free pass. If it's your first time where you've had a misspending, they generally will say, okay, don't do it again. And if it happens again, you will get billed, but go ahead and learn how to set up billing alerts or things like that, okay? So just so you know, don't freak out if you do have a really high bill. You're going to get a single free pass. But now that we know that, let's go learn how to set up a budget, okay? All right, so now that we've had a bit of a story about overspend for misconfiguration, let's learn how to protect ourselves against it. And we're going to go ahead and set up a budget. So go to the top here and type in budget. And what that will do is bring us over to the billing dashboard. Another way to get here is to go click at the top here and go to my billing dashboard. And then you'll see the left-hand menu here. And so the great thing about budgets is that the first two are free. It says there is no additional charge for AWS budgets. You pay for configured usage. But I'm pretty sure that that's not true because it used to be AWS budget reports. Okay, so that costs something. It used to be that AWS budgets, after successfully enabled, will incur 10 cents daily. So in addition to budget
Okay,
monitoring, you
see if
can
he gets it.
add
I got an
budgets.
error that I don't have permission
The first
since
two
we're
active
signed
enabled budgets are
in.
free. Okay, so
Since we're
just be
signed in
aware
with the
that just
IAM
because
account.
AWS says there's no additional charge, read into it because sometimes the fine line will
Is
tell
he
you it
signed
does
in
cost
with
something.
his
So I
IAM
know that the
account?
first two are free. But what
He
we'll do is
is.
go ahead and create a budget. I'm just going to close these.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, this might have been where they've changed permissions since he's done the video. I'm gonna bring this over just to show you guys. Well, basically, there's an error on the screen when I go to budget, and it's saying you need permission. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch. I may have to sign all the way out. Yep, I'm gonna sign all the way out. So I'm gonna sign all the way out, sign back in as root. Right, we're gonna sign in as root. Come on now. Come on now, Access Management Console. Thank you. We're gonna pick this small, sign in as root. Next, next. And then we're gonna go back under users over on the left. Or type it in, either way. Under IAM. I'm going to go to permissions and add permissions. Oh, no, here's a good one. So we added that to users, or did we add that? I can't remember if we added it to the user or the group. Add permissions. This is under user. And then you got to switch it to attach policies directly. Now, let's do the filter type. And is it budget? Is it billing? I really didn't pay attention to what it said, huh? Let me see if there's, I don't think there'd be one for just budget. Budget actions. Read only. I'm going to give all three budgets. I'm going to leave billing out of it. I'm just going to give three budgets. And now I'm going to sign out and sign back in. I think it billing did get added. So, all right. Sign out of root and sign back in as our IM user. Okay, now let's go back to budget and see what happens. Doing a quick search for budget, I click on it. You do not have permission to access billing information. So let me click this to make sure. Okay, well, let's go log out one more time. So it looks like it's even more involved than the ones I gave it. So back in console, go back to IAM, go back to user, because we added it to the user. And let's drop these budget ones that I had added. Remove those. Yeah. Go to add permission, attach policies directly. Now we've got this open right here. And it's saying we need to go to account. Imagine this. We need to go to account, scroll down the page until you find IAM user. Okay, it's about a little past halfway. And I guess we're going to edit and activate IAM access and hit update. This page, create the test users. Billing group. Be kind of smart to do billing group. And then under permissions, support user. Create a role to grant access to the AWS billing console, which is what I think we want. Create a role. Where you can make them switch roles in between. So I think we're gonna, all right. So we've activated the IAM portion of the dashboard. Now, under this account, if we go back to IAM, go to users, go to our IAM user, go to add a permission, attach directly. Now I think, let me see here, because billing should be able to look at all that, right? So we're going to filter by job function. And I think I'm just going to click and give billing. Right? That gives them billing, IM preferences, budget action. Good. Yeah, so that should give everything. So next, and review, boom, added. Now we log out of root. We'll log back in as our IAM user. And now that error message that we were getting should be gone. With the fingers crossed. Now, these are things when you watch videos, and like I said, sometimes things are a little dated. Sometimes policies change. So that might be why we got what we got here. So we're going back into IAM correction. I think we just go straight for budget. Search in the bar. Budget. Click on it. No error message. All right, so we're in there now. All right, back to the video.
These other tabs here, since we have no need for them. And we're going to be presented with a bunch of budget types. We're concerned about cost today, so we're going to go with the cost budget. And notice we can change the period from monthly to daily to quarterly to annually. If you change it to daily,
oh, this looks different.
First two are free. Sure, that's not true, because it used to be that in the budget monitor you can add. Okay, so just be aware that just because it does cost something, but I know that the first two are free. What we'll do is go ahead and create a budget. I'm just going to close these other tabs here since we have no need for them.
Savings plan budget. So with the, templates, right? Or types. Ours aren't labeled that. We've got a zero spend budget, a monthly cost budget, a daily savings plan, and a daily reservation. So I'm going to assume that this quantitative zero spend budget is the cost one.
We're going to be presented with a bunch of budget types. We're concerned about cost today, so we're going to go with the cost budget. And notice we can change the period from monthly to daily to quarterly to annually. If you change it to daily, you won't get forecasting, so I don't want that today. But a monthly is pretty good. You can have a recurring, which is strongly recommended, and then you can put a fixed cost. Notice that I already have some spend on this account, so it was like $25 last month. I'm going to set my budget here to $100, and you can add filters here to filter that cost out. So if you want to say only for this region or things like that, you could do that. Notice that this is my spend over here. So this is my budget, and that's the actual cost. Notice my cost has been going up the last few months because I've been doing things with this account. And so what I'll do is say simple budget here. We'll hit next. And so now it's asking us if we want to configure alerts. We probably do. So you'd hit add alert, and then you'd set a threshold like 80%, or you could say an absolute value, and then you'd put in your emails like andrew@exampro.co. And I want to point out that this is using AWS SNS, or it should be anyway. So Amazon SNS has no upfront cost based on your stuff here. So even though you're filling out an email, and maybe it doesn't show it, but I'm pretty sure that this would create an SNS topic. But what we'll do is hit next here. We have an alert, so we're just reviewing. Actually, this is for attaching any action. So maybe we want some kind of follow-up thing to happen here. So we say add action, and it requires specific IAM permissions on your behalf. Okay, sure. So I guess you could follow up actions. That's no different than on a building alarm, but we're not really worried about that right now. I'm not going to bother with an action. And we'll go ahead and create a budget.
That process
so here it's going to
was
say
a little
that our
different
budget is $100.
in the dashboard.
It's going to show us the amount used, forecast amount, current budget. Sometimes this takes time to.
Our budget is $1
so I'm
for
hit
the
refresh
month.
and see if it shows up yet. There we go. So notice we have forecasted amount $23, current budget, etc. Forecasted budget, forecasted versus budget. So it's pretty straightforward on how that works. I'm just curious if it actually created an SNS event. So I'm going to go over here because a lot of services utilize SNS. So if I go over here, default CloudWatch alarm. So I think this is something I had created before. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete it. So it's default CloudWatch alarms. Actually, I'm going to just click into here and see what I have. Confirmed. So I think it might have used this when we created it, but the reason I'm bringing up SNS is that there's a lot of services that allow you to email yourself for alerts, and it always integrates with this service. And so I just kind of want to point that out so that you remember what SNS is for. But yeah, so setting up a budget is not too hard. So there you go. All right, so now that we've set a budget, what I want to talk to you about is the free tier. And the free tier is something that's available to you for the first 12 months of a new AWS account, and allows you to utilize AWS services without incurring any cost to you. And so it's in your advantage to utilize this free tier as you are experimenting and learning cloud. So if you want to learn about all the offerings, what you do is go to Google, type in AWS free tier, and you'll get this page that explains all the sorts of things here. So you can get 750 hours on EC2, RDS, things like that. There are stipulations in terms of what it would be. So here, this is a T2 or a T3 micro running Linux, Red Hat, or other type of OSs, okay? So there are details, you have to read the fine print. Some services are only available for the first 2 months, things like that. So it's going to highly vary based on service, but it's worth giving this a read in areas that you are interested in. Now, the thing is how do you know that you're still in the free tier or you go outside of it? And that's what I want to talk to you about right now. So I am actually in another AWS account. So notice in the top right corner, it says brown.laptop@exampro.co. Sometimes I will switch into different AWS accounts during these follow alongs so I can best show you, these settings. So if you make your way over to billing, and actually I should show you up here, if we go to my billing dashboard, just trying to be consistent here, and you go to the left-hand side to billing preferences, what you can do is enable receive free tier usage alerts and then put your email in there and save that.
Hmm. We're looking for it. Info free tier. There's no free tier service data available. Okay. I didn't see anything as far as maybe under billing preferences. Let's see. And those are automatically set up to go to the root user's email. Okay.
And so turn on this feature to receive email alerts when your AWS service usage is approaching or exceeded the AWS free tier usage limits, if you wish to receive these alerts, etc., 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 right? And while you're there, I want you to also checkbox receive billing alerts, so I can show you how to set a billing alert. And AWS says, budgets are a new thing, but billing alerts are still something that we use as of today. So if you checkbox that on, we'll be able to see your cost. If we go back here, it should show you, and it's because I'm out of the free tier on this account, but it would show you in the alerts, your usage there. So an example here is if we scroll down, this is in the documentation tracking your AWS free tier usage, you would see like a box like this and it would say, hey, your free tier usage limit is here and you're over it. Okay, so that generally would show up on this panel here, but again, I'm outside of the free tier, so I'm not seeing it here today, okay? So, hopefully that is clear. But yeah, there you go.
Billing alarm. I'm still here.
All right, so we created ourselves a budget. We're monitoring our free tier, but there's another way that we can monitor our spend, and that is through billing alerts or alarms. And it is the old way before we had AWS budgets. This was the only way you could do it. but I still recommend it because there is a bit more flexibility here with this service. And so I wanted to teach you early on so that you know it's available to you, or if you want to play around with it in the future. So what you'll do is go to the top here and type in CloudWatch. And CloudWatch is one of those services where it's actually a collection of services. So there's CloudWatch Alarms, CloudWatch Logs, CloudWatch Metrics. Those are all individual services. And AWS loves to update their interface. So sometimes you'll be presented with this option to change the latest interface. I'm going to try out the new interface here. And that is one challenge with AWS is you always have to expect that they're going to change the UI on you and you're going to have to work through it. So just understand that I try to keep my videos up to date as best I can, but part of the challenge is getting used to that. So this is what they have today. I don't know if they're going to stick with this, but this is what it looks like. But what I want you to do is make your way over to alarms on the left-hand side. And notice that we actually have a section just for billing, which is interesting. I don't remember them having that before, so it's new. So here it says AWS CloudWatch can help you monitor the charges of the AWS bill. Remember that we had to turn that on. Get 10 free alarms with 1,000 free email notifications each month as part of the free tier. So understand that if you create billing alarms, they do cost money as well if you go over that limit, but you sure get a lot. 10 free alarms is quite a bit. But what we'll do is go ahead here and create ourselves an alarm. We're going to go and choose a metric. And so here are the options we could choose from. And so I think, would like billing. And so we can do by service or total estimated charge. We're going to do a total estimated charge. We can only select USD. I've never seen any other currency ever there. And so here we kind of get this little graph where we can see stuff. But this is a lot more powerful than budgets because you can do anomaly detection. So like here it will actually check based between a range as opposed to just going through a particular value. But what I'll do is just set a value here like $50, right? So notice that it sets the line up here, and this is my current spend here, right? And so back to anomaly detection, this is a lot smarter. So the idea is that if something is outside this band of a certain amounts, then it would alert, okay? But I'm gonna go back here. I'm just gonna set this to $50. And that looks okay to me. You can change the period. 6 hours is fine. And there's additional configuration. That's fine as well. We're going to go ahead and hit next. And so the idea is that, if it passes that red line, it will go to an in alarm state. And then what it will do is we want to have it to trigger an SNS topic. So I would generally just create a new one here. We'll just say my billing alarm. Okay, and then here we'll just set the email, andrewexampro.co, and we'll go ahead and create that topic. And so that is now set. I don't know if it would confirm it. We might have to go to our email to confirm it. So notice it says pending confirmation. So what it has done is it sent me out an email, and it wants me to click that link to confirm that I want to subscribe to it. So I might just do that off screen to show you here, okay? So I'm just going to pull up my email here. Just give me a moment. Okay, and so if I come back here, this is the email that came in. So I'm just going to confirm that subscription. It says I'm confirmed, good. And if I refresh this page, we can now see that that is confirmed, all right? So we'll scroll down here. So we can trigger an auto scaling action. So maybe, if you have too many servers, you say, hey, the cost is too much. Shut down those servers. There's EC2 actions, things like that. So these are kind of similar to budgets, right? There's system manager actions. I imagine all these things are available in budgets as well, but budgets just makes it a little bit easier to look at. So I'm going to just say my simple billing alarm here. We'll hit next. All right. We'll hit create alarm. And there you go. So billing alarms don't have like forecasting and things like that. But they do have their own kind of special utility, and so I utilize both. Okay, so there we go. We'll just go back to our management console and move on to the next one. So one of the strongest recommendations that AWS gives you is to set MFA on your AWS root user account. So that's something we're going to do right now. So make sure you're logged into the root user account. So I'm going to go log out as my IAM user. I'm going to go back and log in, and I'm going to log in as my root user here. So to do that, notice sometimes it will be expanded as the IAM user. Click and sign into root user here. We'll have root user. I'm going to go ahead and enter my email that I used. And if you do switch accounts frequently, they will ask you these silly captchas, which drive me crazy. But, it happens. You probably won't encounter it as much as I do. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab my password here and paste it on in. And so now that I'm in, what I want to do is make my way over to IAM. And I'm going to go and look for users. Actually, sorry, just right here. Add an MFA root user. We're going to go ahead and hit add MFA. All right, and so that's going to bring us to this screen. And so here we can activate our MFA. And so we have a few options here. So we have virtual MFA device, U2F security key, other hardware like a Gemalto token. So, I generally use this because I have a security key, and I want to show you what I'm talking about. So this is how I log into my machine or my AWS account. This is a security key, an Ubi key that sits on my desk. I tape it so it doesn't fall off the cord. But the idea is that when I log in, I have to press this little button here to double confirm before I get into my account. But if you don't have a security key, you can just use a virtual MFA. And all that means is you're going to use something on your phone to log in. So we'll click continue here. And so it says install a compatible app on your mobile phone or device. And so if you click and open this, what it will do is tell you about some things that you can use. So if we scroll down to virtual, here they suggest if you have Android, iPhone, so Authy, Dual Mobile, LastPath, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator. So Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and Authy, I have all those three installed. Honestly, Authy has the nicest, simplest UI, but I'm using Microsoft Authenticator quite a bit. So anyway, whichever you want to do, it's fine. But what we'll have to do is go back here, and then it says use your virtual MFA app on your device camera to scan your QR code. So once you have one of those apps installed, like Authy or whatever one you want, what you're going to do is open up the application, and I can't tell you exactly where it is, but you'll have to hit add account in your app. And then from there, it will ask you to scan your QR code. And so once you're ready, you hit show the QR code, you hit scan the QR code on your phone. I'm holding my phone up to my computer screen here, and it's going to find it. And I'm just going to take a moment here to rename the account so I can tell what it is. So I'm just naming it AWS Sandbox because that's what I call this account. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And so now what I can do is enter 2 consecutive MFA codes. Now this always confused me what they wanted here, but the idea is that you're going to see one code, right? Whatever's on the screen right now. So I'm going to type in it. It says 734051, and I'm going to wait until the new code shows up. So there's like a timer in all these apps, and they go across the screen or they count down, and so you have to wait for that to happen. And so I'm just going to wait here a little bit. And once I get the new number here, this one is 071530. I'm going to hit assign MFA. And there we go. And I can't tell you how many times I messed that up because I didn't understand the consecutive numbers. But you're just waiting for the number that's on the screen to enter it in, and then enter the next one in to turn on MFA. And so now your account is protected, and every time you log in, you're going to have to enter in MFA. So let's log out and see what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and sign in. And again, we'll put in our root user account here. We'll type in 74M32T, submit. And I need to go grab my password. So that's in my password manager. So just give me a moment here. And now it wants the MFA code. So this is in my phone. And so I'm going to go enter it in. So this one says 475841. All right, we'll hit submit. Okay, and there we go. So that's going to happen every single time we want to log in. I'm going to tell you that if you get one of these, they're so much easier to use because you just press the button. Okay, so that's why I have this, because I cannot stand entering the code in time and time again. But those are your options there. Okay.
All right, I think we're gonna pause there for the evening. What are we at up here? Oh yeah, we hit that hour. We hit that hour. We're at an hour and 10 minutes, and then I do apologize. We had to pause it once or twice to keep up But I mean, I'd rather pause it and digest it a little bit. Um, yeah, he covered a lot of introductory, just getting set up, alerts, budgets, securing the account. Um, I think all of that is very helpful in the beginning, especially since this service has the potential to cost you a pretty penny, as they would say. So, getting all that set up in the beginning can mitigate hefty bill. You don't want to have to use that one-time emergency lifeline to get out of paying a bill until you really need to get out of paying that bill. Um, I won't see you guys again until Tuesday. For those of you who have stopped by, for those of you who are going to end up watching this in the months and years to come, make sure you subscribe. Part three, we'll be doing the third hour on Tuesday. See you guys then.